Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Brian Jason Ross. He's the creator of the TSP Wealth Accelerator. Brian has built a career helping federal employees retire with clarity, confidence, and control. With decades of experience inside the federal system itself, including a role with the U.S. Department of the Interior and the Office of Financial Education, Brian now leads a mission to help others turn default retirements into tax-smart, purpose-driven wealth plans. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate you having me on here.
It's great to have you on here. Now, Brian, can you share a little bit more about who you are and the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The fundamental background that I have is as a financial educator. Even before I joined the Department of Interior and stepped into the national role of Director of Financial Education, I was conducting workshops and seminars, volunteering with Junior Achievement, volunteering with Habitat for Humanity. And so sort of on and off the clock, I've been a financial educator. It's something that I enjoy, and I think that a lot of my clients enjoy the education as well. And people that have been in my audiences, whether they're clients or not, enjoy the education and approach me for more specific educational guidance regarding their decisions. Today, I am continuing my role as a financial consultant, helping people that are in or near retirement maximize their wealth, reduce taxes, and really just have a full understanding of what's available to them, particularly working with federal employees. Being a former federal employee myself, I know the ins and outs of how this works. And unfortunately, a lot of federal employees, in fact, most federal employees, do not receive any guidance from their human resources department, not even much help from the Office of Personnel Management. So they're left to figure things out on their own. And so they do look to people who have been down that path themselves, who work on a regular basis with people that are looking to maximize their retirement, reduce taxes on their thrift savings plan, for example, and other retirement accounts. And so that's what I'm doing now, continuing my financial education role, the thing that I enjoy doing, and then also helping people to make wise decisions regarding their hard-earned money.
Oh, that's great. So, let's go a little bit even further back. What was it that really originally led you into this space of not only working with federal employees, but retirement planning, and then ultimately moving into the financial space?
Yeah, I actually launched my first insurance agency in 2001. I stepped out on my own, and I'm based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so I launched my first agency in 2001 and was able to grow that into a successful agency. We went from a team of one person to a team of about 30 additional agents, and we work primarily in the senior market, helping seniors to understand their options related to Medicare and helping them to understand the complexities of long-term care, as well as how to maximize their retirements, navigating Social Security and helping them to preserve their wealth. We also helped clients with estate planning by partnering with law firms in the area who could help them with the legal documents to maximize their estate and to avoid probate. So again, that was all part of the education process. And I grew that agency to a point where I sold it. And I was looking for my next venture. And so I was actually recruited by someone within the Department of Interior because they were looking for someone to spearhead a financial literacy program specifically for Indian country. And so that led me down the path of working with the Department of Interior And and then when I left the Department of Interior, I was able to launch a second agency with a business partner of mine. And so that kind of led us where we are now.
Hmm. Wow, that's fascinating. Again, I love hearing the stories how somebody gets started in this business and helping people. Now, I'm curious when you were still working inside of the kind of the federal system, did you start to see the gaps or patterns that really later shaped what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Um, when I stepped into the role of Director of Financial Education, I was traveling across the United States doing presentations, live presentations, both to internal stakeholders within the federal government, but also to external stakeholders. So my audiences would include coworkers and fellow federal employees, and it would also include members of the general public. And oftentimes, individuals would approach me to get more specific guidance. And I never crossed the line into offering financial advice, but I could provide more specific and customized financial education whenever it was a one-on-one setting.
Hmm.
And the common theme that I was encountering from the federal employees, both within the Department of Interior, but a whole lot of other agencies. When I worked in Washington, D.C. as the chief of staff at Interior, I was able to network with and to work alongside federal employees at other agencies, such as the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Deposit Insurance, FDIC.
Hmm.
I worked with other agencies in the financial realm as well. And a common theme from federal employees at the executive levels on down was we don't know what to do. We see these options presented to us, but we don't know exactly how we should go about maximizing our benefits. And as I looked into this further, I realized that human resources is there to facilitate the hiring of new federal employees and making sure people have a basic understanding of their benefits. But as far as any guidance, it was woefully absent. And so I began to educate myself about what could be done to help people get educated about their options. And as I did that, I incorporated that information into my presentations, and I became pretty popular for a while there with federal employees who were demanding that I need to talk with Brian because I don't have the first clue. What do I do to get ready for retirement? Or I'm already retired. Are there options that I can put into place as well? So, just having a basic conversation, it opens the eyes of federal employees, but not just federal employees, people that are not in the federal employment system who have who have financial concerns, retirement concerns themselves. So a lot of it does translate over into non-federal employees, but for the majority of my practice today, I'm working largely with federal employees. It's my level of expertise. I'm recognized as someone who is considered an expert in this area. So yeah, that's sort of how I got to this point.
Well, you're kind of an insider. I mean, you had the inside look then, and now you're kind of from the outside. So when you know what really when it really comes down to the advice and what what you're doing, is there really a moment when you kind of felt like, hey, you know what, this is really what I was meant to do?
As a matter of fact, Daniel, that moment has it actually arrived years ago. I I sort of felt uneasy about stepping into that particular role of working with federal employees. Um, I took the position that I had very seriously. It's very important to provide financial education dignity and respect and work in an ethical environment. And so I had been a little bit uneasy about stepping into that role. But more and more, the folks that I have counseled one-on-one have continued to come to me for follow-up suggestions and guidance. So maybe I helped them with rolling over their TSP into something that made a whole lot more sense and gave them more options. Maybe I was able to help someone turn their TSP into a secondary pension that would last for the rest of their lives. And we were also able to help them maximize other benefits that they weren't aware that they even had. So, I guess that moment really came to me when I realized that things aren't improving for federal employees, and they really need someone who can help them, someone that's willing to be an educator first. And if I can help them implement plans that will improve their financial situation, improve their retirement, and lower their taxes, then that's something that I want to do. And so I'm happy to be doing that now.
Yeah. So when a federal employee comes to you, what's usually kind of happening in their world? And, at that point, like what is it that usually they're challenged with the most?
Well, I think it's human nature that we tend to put things off, the things that are difficult, the things that we don't understand, sort of the mindset of I'll get to that later. I'll get to that later. And so a lot of times when I have the conversation, they are almost in a panic mode
Hmm.
of I'm looking at retirement, or I just turned 59 and a half. What are my options now? And so it would be ideal if we could begin to educate people a lot sooner in the process. And that's a lot of what I did as Director of Financial Education with the Department of Interior was begin educating people about their options a lot earlier in the process. And that's certainly something that Interior has continued to implement for their employees, but they've also done this across other federal agencies. So I'm glad to see that that is continued. But a lot of times federal employees will come to me sort of at the time they need to make decisions, and that's okay. That's okay. The process of understanding your options doesn't take that long. We will make sure that you understand the choices that you have before you, and it's okay. You don't have to be in a panic mode. We can literally rescue your situation regardless of where you are, whether you are near retirement or have already retired. In most cases, there are choices that we can make or at least present to you that will enhance your situation and lower your taxes and allow you to enjoy a retirement that you desire.
Yeah. No, that's really great when it comes down to it. Again, what I'm keep on hearing from you is just the most important part is the whole education part, right? Just being educated and knowing what's going on. Now, can you walk us through some of the fears or frustrations that, the people that come to you might bring in that are not showing up with the numbers? Because we tend to think, oh, it's all about numbers, but you know what? There is usually a story behind the numbers, right? The fear, the frustration, or the worries that people have.
Yes, there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to the tax implications of a retirement plan, particularly the thrift savings plan, and how that relates to the pension that employees are going to ultimately receive when they retire. And so they want to understand how a FERS employee is going to be able to maximize their pension, Social Security, and also how the thrift savings plan is going to be able to be a factor in their overall planning. So understanding those options, understanding how it all works is very important. And also the additional benefits that they can enjoy once they retire. So for example, it's a little known fact that if you have federal health insurance 5 years before you retire, then you can avoid having to get on Medicare. And so that's something that a lot of people don't understand. So just educating people about those facets. And again, a lot of people make the assumption that, well, I'm 65, I have to have Medicare now, and to get off of this wonderful health care that I've enjoyed being a federal employee. That's not true. You can continue that into retirement even beyond 65.
Wow. So there is a lot of kind of nuances from there. And I think often another misconception is from the outside, it always looks like that, having a, federal job or working for the government, they've got strong pension like the TSP, a job security. But what people are not seeing is actually a lot of these things do create their own risks. And you already kind of talked about the taxation risk. What are some of the other risks that are associated with this?
Absolutely. I think a lot of times federal employees understand that they will receive a pension when they retire. And there is a, a belief that that pension is going to be enough to cover my financial needs in retirement. They make the false assumption that it's going to be equal to what their salary was when they were working.
Hmm.
And that is far, far from the truth. It's going to be a fraction of what your salary was. And so it's very important that we look at what Social Security is going to be as part of your retirement plan and what your TSP and other retirement accounts, such as 401ks from other jobs that you may have had in the past, IRA savings and so forth, and how those retirement savings are going to factor in to your monthly income in retirement. So that's one of the main things, is that people need to understand what the numbers look like. And we're able to put together through the calculations and the software that's available to help people understand exactly what that number is going to look like. And one of the common mistakes is, if they assume that that pension is going to be enough for them to retire on alone, then they're not going to save enough in their TSP and other retirement savings plans. So helping them to understand what their goals are, what their financial needs are going to be in retirement, and helping them to save toward that goal. It is about the numbers, but it's also understanding what you can do to have some control over what that's going to look like in retirement.
Hmm. Yeah, you mentioned the word control. That's really important because I think often people think that they don't have control over things, but there are ways and things that they can do to go and set things up. And this is all part of really what this podcast is all about, make life less taxing. We kind of have this movement, keep what is yours and break free, which really aligns well with, I think, something that you often talk about. You talk about a lot, the default retirement. What does that really mean? And I think that, a lot of federal employees have kind of plugged into this one way of thinking that there is only one way to go and do things when it comes down to kind of they're plugged into the system and they're just listening what they're kind of hearing everywhere else and they're trying to make sense out of it. What does that really mean to you, that default retirement, and how is it really impacting the clients that you serve?
Well, I think a lot of times the consensus through mainstream media and other sources teaches people that they should save for retirement and put a portion of their paycheck into their savings plan, be it the TSP or 401k, and that the default plan is, well, I'll just live off of what I accumulate plus Social Security. And if they're fortunate enough to have a pension, live off of that as well. And they assume that they'll just have to pay taxes on what they withdraw and that there's no other options. Well, that doesn't have to be the case. And for example, there are strategies that are available to help people essentially eliminate the taxes on their retirement plans. And so people hear that and say, wait a minute, I've always been taught that if I have a retirement plan, that it's going to be taxed at my current tax rate when I take it in retirement. And if you go with the default plan, that's most likely going to be the case. But there are other options available. In other words, you can reposition your retirement dollars, or at least a portion of your retirement dollars, into plans that allow you to completely eliminate the taxes. And think about that for a moment. When you can eliminate the taxes on your retirement dollars, how much further will that take you into retirement? Or what kind of an improved retirement lifestyle could you enjoy if you could eliminate the taxes? And so I think it's just part of the education process, helping people understand that the old way of retirement, the default way of retirement, is still available. But if you understand that there are options, there are choices that are available to you that might actually dramatically improve your situation, it's worth at least having a conversation about.
Well, I think, and what you bring it up, and really let's now talk about the TSP Wealth Accelerator. That I think you've kind of alluded to. That's what you're talking about, helping people reducing the taxes and what they're doing. What was really the spark behind building that and helping people?
It's helping people to understand that they have choices beyond what's been laid out for them in the traditional TSP and retirement planning process. Helping people to understand that you can have control over your retirement. You don't have to just accept the traditional retirement route of trying to draw down your retirement plan, your 401k plan, your TSP plan. You don't have to just default to that and live off of the after-tax dollars. And a lot of people are choosing to position a portion of their TSP and 401ks into a Roth option, which is contributing after-tax dollars into a Roth plan. The Roth plan, of course, allows you to draw the money down without having to pay taxes on the gains. So since you're contributing after-tax dollars into the Roth, when you ultimately draw that down in retirement, it is also going to be available tax-free. But a lot of people, when they hear, well, there's a great choice out there, and it's the Roth option. Well, there's also a tax benefit to looking at the traditional TSP or the traditional 401k. A lot of people don't realize that they have the ability to completely eliminate the taxes on those plans as well. So understanding the availability of looking at the Roth option, is that potentially an avenue for accumulation? Or looking at the choices that are available in the traditional TSP plans, simply integrating that, looking at that, seeing if that makes sense for you. And it doesn't have to be all or none. That is a very common misconception that federal employees have. I'll have conversations with them, and they may have accumulated 500,000, 750,000, $1 million in their TSP, worked hard for many years and accumulated significant wealth in their TSP. And they want to look at what they can do to preserve those dollars. They want to look at how they can reduce, if not eliminate, the taxes on those dollars. And a lot of times they think, well, I don't want to have to roll over all of my TSP or all of my 401k. The good news is that you don't have to do an all or none. You can reposition a portion of the TSP or a portion of the 401k into a plan that helps make sense. So again, it's all about educating people on these different scenarios, and there's no one size fits all. It's simply a matter of having a conversation, understanding what's important to you. Some people want to maximize their dollars in retirement. Others have a focus on maximizing the amount that they can leave to their children and their grandchildren. and sometimes it's a combination thereof. So everyone's going to have a unique story, as you
Yeah.
said, and it's having that conversation, learning what's important to them, and then creating a customized plan that fits their needs.
Yeah, you bring an important point again. It's not about, hey, there is only one solution or there is the best solution for somebody. The solution is going to depend on what do they have and how can you optimize what they already have accumulated or what kind of assets they already have. Now, when we're talking about the TSP Wealth Accelerator, and you've touched on that a little bit more, but how is it really different? How is this process different from the traditional retirement planning advice that often federal employees, might hear elsewhere and receive from, an advisor that maybe doesn't specialize working with federal employees?
Absolutely. A lot of the traditional financial advice that people hear is to put this into a portfolio of stocks and bonds and real estate and various asset classes. And a lot of people have accumulated significant wealth that way. But those options, those choices involve risk.
Hmm.
And when someone is at the place of retirement or near retirement, they can't afford to lose what they've worked so hard to accumulate. They need to look at choices that are going to preserve their assets, but also have the opportunity for it to grow to outpace inflation. And so helping people to understand that you don't have to go the route of putting your hard-earned money at risk. You can choose those options out there that will allow you to preserve your hard-earned money, um, and to also continue to grow it. So in many ways, you can continue to have your hard-earned retirement dollars not only stay where they are, but continue to grow. And also potentially implementing some tax advantage choices that are out there to help you not only preserve what you have, but to reduce or eliminate the taxes so that you can keep more of what you've accumulated.
Hmm. Yeah, you bring a great point. It's more important what you keep, not necessarily how much you bring in, because yeah, you can bring in a lot, but if a lot of it goes away, that's not really helpful. Now, you've said that this is more about just reducing taxes. It's about really restoring control, and we're back to that word that you mentioned earlier. Can you go and expand on that a little bit more? What does that really mean, restoring control?
Absolutely. While the TSP offers a variety of accounts that you can diversify your savings into, it's limited.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of people have been successful in accumulating sizable retirement dollars in those accounts. But again, it's limited. Every 401k has a certain limited asset classes and sub accounts that you can choose. Well, when you turn 59 and a half as a federal employee, or if you've separated from federal government, you have the ability to roll over a portion of, or in some cases, all of your
Hmm.
TSP into something that is more appropriate for you. There are not a lot of safe options within the TSP that will give you the potential upside that the stock market can offer, for example. So if you are able to reposition your assets, sort of what we call a rollover, into an asset class or an account that allows you to choose what makes sense for you, TSP may not offer it. In fact, I know it doesn't.
Hmm.
You can reposition that into something that is much more appropriate to your goals.
Yeah. Now, you've helped thousands of federal employees, but I'm curious, from all of those people that you have conversation, is there a moment or a story that has really stuck with you the most?
There is. I was working at an agency in Oklahoma when I was with the federal government, Department of Interior. And I was working with a tribe, and this particular tribe was going to receive a very large settlement.
Hmm.
And individual tribal members were going to receive a very large portion of that settlement. In some cases, individuals were going to become millionaires overnight as a result of this settlement. And I offered to the tribal leaders financial literacy. I did a lot of workshops and seminars in the tribal areas. We went online for the tribal members who were out of state and basically provided some financial guidance. Again, never crossing the line, offering financial advice,
Yes.
but offering financial guidance, some diversification, helping them understand estate planning. And as part of the education that I offered, I remember meeting with one lady from the tribal community. And in our conversation, I realized that she had no estate plan whatsoever.
Mm.
And she was one of the persons that was going to become a millionaire as a result of this settlement. And I simply suggested that she have a conversation with an estate planning attorney to see if a will or a trust might be appropriate for her.
Mm.
Again, not being an attorney myself, I didn't offer legal advice, but I suggested that she pursue learning what her options were. And about 3 weeks after that conversation, I got a call from her son. He wanted to come into the office and to meet with me. And in that conversation, I learned that he and his sister inherited her wealth because she had passed away in that 3 weeks period of time. And he said, I wanted to come in and thank you and shake your hand because mom listened to you. She went and got a trust set up. And as a result of this, we have learned that not only did we get our inheritance much sooner than otherwise would have happened if we had to go through probate, but we saved thousands of dollars in other expenses, attorney's fees, probate fees, etc. And you just have no idea how much that has helped us and her grandchildren to get the education that she always dreamed that they would have. That stands out to me as one of the most powerful stories in my experience as an educator and the impact that it actually has. So there are countless others, but that's one that comes to mind.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. Now, when it comes to you, what's most important to you personally about the experience that you're creating for your clients? Because what I'm hearing, again, it's not just about the money, it's actually having a conversation, educating them. But what would you say is kind of most important for you?
The main thing is that I have an understanding of what's important to them. And as long as I have an understanding of what's important to them, then I can make the most of our conversation. I can make the most of our time together. I can focus on talking about those areas that matter. In other words, if you meet with a typical financial advisor, they may talk about what they want to sell you or what their limited area of expertise is in, and they just focus on that. And it goes past what's important to the client. And nothing really gets accomplished in that conversation because the client hasn't been heard. So it's important that I understand what's important to you and that I present that information so that you get the education that you need And it's important that clients never feel pressured and never
Mm,
feel like they are being sold anything. What I want to do is understand where you're coming from, understand what your needs are, what's important to you, and educate you about what the available options are that might be for you to choose.
mm,
And then, if appropriate, help you implement
yeah,
that. And then making sure that you have an ongoing source of support so that as things evolve in your life and in your financial situation, tax situation, that we can be proactive as opposed to reactive.
mm. Yeah, you bring out an important point. Now, you worked with people at every level, from, the Department of Defense to Native Americans, health services. How has that really shaped the way that you show up and help, individuals, especially federal employees, as an advisor?
I had a contract with, you mentioned Department of Defense. I had a contract with DoD to go onto military bases and
Mm,
um, provide financial education to servicemen and women, particularly with the Navy. And I learned that a lot of the younger generation get into certain spending habits, and for many of them, it's the first time that they have money in their lives, and they haven't had financial education, they haven't had financial literacy courses in high school, and so a lot of them default to, if I have it, I'm going to spend it. And so I
yeah,
try to educate them about you don't have to save everything, but you
yeah.
also don't have to
You don't have
spend
to.
everything.
It's a great
There
point.
is,
Yeah.
there is a sensible approach, a balance
Yeah.
toward going forward. So I'm not saying that you can't enjoy your hard-earned money, but you can also plan for the future, plan for the emergencies. A lot of them will run out with their paycheck and buy a car,
Mm.
which I get. I understand that. But then there's no plan in place
There's
for
no
if
plan
they
B.
have, that's right. There's no plan in place if they have an accident or if
Yeah.
that car has mechanical issues, there's no emergency plan.
Mm.
So they really start to understand because no one has ever had this conversation with them. No one has ever presented that they can have both. They can have an
Yeah.
emergency plan, they can save for retirement, and they can also enjoy, the things that they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you bring a great point. I think the basic financial literacy is really missing. And I know when I was an advisor, this was before the financial crisis in 2008. And as it was happening, I was going to companies and telling them that they need to go and do and have basic financial literacy, because what happens when you have an employee that is at work and they're worried about their finances, they're not at work. Their mind is in their bank account trying to figure out how they're going to make, the payments that they need to make. So the productivity drops quite a lot. And the premise was going to corporations and talking about this, that you need to educate these people because it is already costing them money. They just don't see it. But it's, an hour here, hour there, somebody sitting at work worried about looking at their bank account, getting kind of depressed. They're not getting the work done that they really need to be getting done.
You're absolutely right. We often hear about the impacts of absenteeism
Mm.
in the workplace, but there's also something called presenteeism,
Mhm.
and it goes to what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
When that employee is getting calls from creditors at
Yeah.
work, when they are stressed about not having enough money to pay the bills before the next paycheck comes, you're right, they're not focused on work. And if you have someone who is in a industrial environment working around heavy machinery
Oh,
and they are not focused on safety, but rather worried about how they're going to pay the bills, that can become a dangerous situation.
that's an accident ready to happen. I mean,
It,
and
it,
I'm
it is.
sure they've got
It,
no way how to prove how accidents happen, but I'm sure a lot of the accidents are happening because they're not present. They're absent. They're not being in the moment. They're thinking about their finances. They're thinking about certain things. And yeah, as you mentioned, getting credit calls and all of that, that's very distracting.
Another factor that comes into play is under the Department of Labor rules, under ERISA, ERISA, which governs 401ks and retirement plans. It is required under the safe harbor regulations that employers who offer 401ks and 403bs and retirement plans, they must provide a certain level of financial education on a regular basis. And it is not that uncommon for employees who suffer a loss in the market, for example, in their 401k, for that employee to file a lawsuit against their employer saying you didn't do enough to educate me, to prepare me. And as a result of you failing to educate me on my options with regard to my retirement plan, I lost half of it in 2008 or in 2000 or whenever pick your market downturn that you want to.
Yeah.
But it is well documented that major corporations have been sued by their employees because they took a significant loss. And so it's important that employers provide that financial education, because not only is it a benefit to the employees, not only does it help them to feel more financially in control of their circumstances, it can go toward helping that employee who's stressed about their finances to know that they can contact someone who can provide them financial guidance regarding what they're dealing with in the moment, whether it's credit, mortgage, asset allocation, estate planning, and so forth. So yeah, financial literacy is woefully inadequate. And for those companies that can provide that for the workforce, it's a great service.
Yeah, no, you do bring out great points. Now, what do you want your legacy and really what you're building, not just your business, but how you serve, what others. How do you what does that really mean to you?
It means that I would want to be known as someone who worked with integrity, someone who educated first, and who helped people make better financial decisions for not only themselves, but for a generational impact. Because when one family learns how to navigate the retirement system and financial system overall, that can be passed down to their children and their grandchildren. And one financial decision can have ripple effects. It can have ripple effects in a positive way, and it can have ripple effects in a negative way. And that could have a generational impact for years and years to come. So what I want to be known for is helping people make better financial decisions. Just because you have knowledge and on financial matters, it doesn't exclude you from life happening. I use this example a lot, that even the most preeminent oncologist, doctors that specialize in treating cancer and cancer patients, even those experts themselves are not immune from getting cancer themselves. So knowledge is important, but it doesn't make you immune from life happening. But what it does do is when situations arise that negatively impact you financially, having the knowledge gives you the confidence that you know how to overcome that financial challenge.
Yeah, no, it's a really great point. Again, all of these things are so important, and it comes down to, and we're back to the whole education and being informed on that. So as we're wrapping this up, I have 4 questions. I call them rapid fire question. Answer whatever is the first thing that kind of comes to your mind. What's a favorite book that really shaped your thinking?
Well, I was raised in church
Mm.
and became a became a Christian, was baptized at the age of 15. So I would have to say the Bible
Uh,
has definitely been instrumental in impacting my thinking. I also read a book, Think and Grow Rich,
mm,
and that was definitely something that helped me to adopt the philosophy of having the mastermind.
mm,
Um, and I would say that those are probably the most impactful, but there's one other. There's one other that made a huge impact in my life, and that is The Power of Now by
mm,
Eckhart Tolle. There was a time, and I think a lot of us fall into this trap of worrying about the past and having anxiety about the future, and spending time in the past and worrying about the
mm,
future robs us of our today. And The Power of Now talks about letting go of the past because there's nothing we can do to
mm.
change it, and forgetting about the future to the point where it's causing us anxiety or keeping us up at night, because there is no such thing as a future. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It only exists in our minds. And
It's a
not
lie. You bring out a great point. I have a coach that he says this. Most of us, we are lying to ourselves about the future because we make all of these crazy ideas, bad things that might happen to us that never do, but we are lying to ourselves. And he goes like, well, hey, if you're going to lie to yourself, you might as well put positive things into your life. So if you're going to lie, you're lying anyway. You might as well switch those things instead of negative things, switch them into positive things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be the three
Yeah.
books
Well,
that.
you've mentioned the number one book mentioned on here, which is the Bible. So that's I think the one that you get kind of answered the most. So the next question is morning routine or habit that you can't live without.
Morning routine or habit that I can't live without. Well, my honest answer is to say I have to have my morning coffee, but I don't
That
know that
that
I
might be the number one answer for this one too. We hear
well,
that quite a lot.
but I don't know that I couldn't live without it. I just don't want to live without it. um, but prayer again is
Yeah,
something that is a daily habit that I don't think I could live without. So.
yeah, yeah. No, that's great. Now, how about is there a bucket list item you haven't checked off yet?
Well, I went skydiving with my son a couple of years ago. So I checked that off. And I had gone before, but not with my son. That was his first time.
Yeah.
So that was an exciting bucket list item for us. Um, yeah, I don't know that there is anything I haven't done that I want to do. I would say that there's not one.
Okay. Well, it is what it is. Is there a surprising hobby or interest that kind of recharges you on a daily basis?
Exercise,
Yeah.
exercise. And I would love to do more um, strength training and more. I would love to be able to do more. And I hope in the new year to be able to do that. Um, but yeah, there's something that energizes me is exercise. If I'm ever feeling stressed or anxious, getting my kettlebell and working out with
Mm.
that energizes me and helps me to feel more in control.
Yeah, getting the body in the movement. Yeah. Now I've
Yep.
got one last question. I call it the hot one. Fast forward to the end of your life. Imagine that everyone forgot everything that you ever taught them or you showed them, but they will remember one message from you. What would you want that one message for them to be from you?
Um, Live in the now.
Hmm. That's the
And
only place to live. So that's a great message.
Yeah.
Wow, what a powerful and perspective-shifting conversation, Brian. Thank you for sharing your journey. Where can people find out more about the work that you do?
Absolutely. You can definitely go to my website. That's tspwealthaccelerator.com. You can also go to my personalized website, brianjasonross.com.
That's perfect. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Brian's websites and get connected with him and have a conversation. Brian, thank you again for your time and your message. And remember, making life less taxing isn't just about money. It's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Brian, thank you again.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifilesstaxingpodcast.com.